Senator Bell, you're presenting AB 1100 for Mr. Lowe? Yes. Must have been a busy weekend with San Francisco Gay Pride. Senator Bell.
I think he was in San Jose. So, thank you, Mr. Chair and members. On behalf of Assemblyman Lowe, I'm presenting Assembly Bill 1100. This will adjust the fee that is paid to the Attorney General when a proponent submits a ballot initiative proposal or referendum to an amount of $2,500. If the $200 fee set in 1943, I think that's the record of not changing. If that included a CPI adjustment, the fee would be upward over $2,000, and this bill does that. So, furthermore, the increase will lower cost pressure on the general fund account. This fee is supposed to recover cost, and certainly it does not do so at $200. And we're a big state. It costs a lot of money to do these things, and I urge and I vote on this.
Thank you. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition.
Good morning, Mr. Chair and members. Ignacio Hernandez on behalf of the Consumer Watchdog. We respectfully oppose this measure. As it's currently drafted, the bill will increase the filing fee by tenfold, actually more than tenfold. While we understand that there hasn't been an increase for a long time, we think that the amount, one, is too high for a number of reasons. It's actually out of step with other filing fees that we have in the state of California. For example, if you file a lawsuit for millions of dollars, the filing fee is only $400. When we look to adjust the fee or the threshold for grand theft or felony grand theft versus petty theft, again, we had the same concern that it hadn't been raised for a number of years. We looked at CPI, we raised it to $950. The filing fee for a legislator is set at around $950. This would start off at $2,500 and could be adjusted upwards every other year ongoing. So for that reason, we have significant concerns. In theory, the initiative process is supposed to be accessible to everyone. Whether you agree or disagree, we have an outlet now because of the recent court decision last week that if an initiative is unconstitutional, the AG doesn't have to prepare a title and summary. So that's good. So the biggest question now is what should this threshold be? If it shouldn't be $200, we think $2,500 is too much. Let me just add in as far as the cost to the state. If this bill achieves what it states it wants to achieve, there will actually be a decrease to the state for a number of reasons. Number one, the fee would be so high that individuals who can't afford it will simply not file. And the way that the law is structured now, the only way that the state collects money is if somebody files and the measure does not qualify. So we imagine that there will be a number of those that would otherwise fail to qualify, that just won't file at all. So that's money we don't get to the state of California. And the money and the initiatives that are filed, those that can afford it, and kind of the professional organizations that come in and file these initiatives, those are more likely to qualify, which means the state of California won't see a penny of the $2,500. In fact, that money has to be held in escrow and has to be returned to the proponents. So the $2,500 does not offset the cost of the state of California if we expect an increase in the percentage of those initiatives that are filed to actually qualify. And in fact, it may just end up being more initiatives qualifying, which would be an additional cost to the state of California. In addition to those folks who can't afford the filing fee, they're probably going to come to the legislature. There's probably a cost associated with that. We just think it's too high. There are those small grassroots organizations who want to continue to access it. This is more than a filing fee to start an LLC in California. It's more, a whole host of filing fees are a lot less than this $2,500. So we really ask to look at this number, find a better balancing point than the $2,500. We think it should be closer to the $900, maybe a little bit lower, somewhere around there, and certainly would be open to talking about that. Maybe there has to be some other way for small nonprofits to get on the ballot, who maybe they haven't been able to raise money until they can actually get something in front of the Attorney General's office. But let's find a way to find a different amount, especially since we have the opportunity, the way the bill's drafted, it can be increased every odd year going forward. And that is also, we could come back in 5, 10 years and it could be double. And that's a concern. So for those reasons, we're opposed and always open to discuss the matter with the author going forward.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We're neutral on this bill and would note that based on historical average, it costs DOJ approximately $8,000 per proposal to analyze and prepare title and summary. And so it costs, and we fund them at from the general fund for a workload at that $8,000 level. This bill would defray more of the costs than existing law allows, but it still costs the general fund more than either the existing fee or the new increased fee would cover.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? There's a motion by Senator Hill. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Laura?
Aye.
Laura, I. Bates? Bell? Bell, I. Hill? Hill, I. Leyva? Leyva, I. Mendoza? Nielsen? Nielsen, no.
4 to 1, we'll keep this item open for absent members to add on. Members, we're going to move through the agenda to our waived items, and hopefully we have Assemblymember Melendez come in during that time. I know she's also has a late flight. So we will move to the first item, which is AB 30 by Assemblymember Alejo. Witnesses in support, witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We don't have a position on this bill, but note that it could create costs in the tens of thousands of dollars for the 4 affected schools to replace equipment and materials that reflect the Redskins school mascot. The bill doesn't require the replacement of the existing uniforms and materials with the mascot name until they would normally be replaced, which we don't consider to be a higher level of service. But to the extent that the commission determines that the replacement of uniforms, school items, or other related activities is a state reimbursable mandate, no matter when it actually happens, we would be on the hook for any reimbursement for that. So that's the projected tens of thousands.
Okay.
Thanks.
Are you guys in support or in opposition?
Opposition.
Okay. Okay, I asked for support and opposition earlier. Are you in support?
Support.
Go ahead.
Megan Ellis on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, in support.
Hit it again. There you go.
Megan Ellis on behalf of State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Tom Torlakson, in support.
Great, thank you. Witnesses in opposition.
Okay,
And we're going to stick to the fiscal aspect of the bill.
right.
Go ahead.
Okay, good morning, Chairman and committee members. My name is Loretta Rose, and this is Pat Rocha. She is our board president. We are 2 of 5 board members of Gustine Unified School District, and we come today to deliver you a message from our district. We want the committee to know that each of the 4 schools listed on AB 30 will face a cost of, on an average, of $500,000 to over $1 million in order to remove this mascot. In our area, our school alone is $500,000 to $750,000. These are funds that we cannot spend to remove or replace our Red Scott mascot. Our money is set for education for our students. Due to the many years of shortfall in our annual budget from the state, we recently had to pass a $14 million bond in order to an actual $29 million bond to repair and improve our campuses. This is because the state says there is no extra funding, and neither do we. Our district operates on $16 million budget a year. We have 200 employees. Our ADA is 1,890, and we have 5 school sites. We want you to realize that we should be using this money for classrooms, instructional needs, campus security, vocational classes, replacing old school buses, and the list goes on, but the money will not. If Bill AB 30 is passed, we will not have these funds for our students. We ask you to review the packet that I have presented to you and ask yourselves, if the schools are not using the mascot in a manner that is disrespectful, then why should you approve it? We ask you to realize that AB 30 is not only taking the spirit from the students, but is financially impacting the districts budgets that will be affecting all students academically. We ask you to remember that the students and their education should always come first. They are our future. And with close, we respectfully ask you to oppose AB 30.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in opposition.
Pat Rocha, in opposition of AB 30.
Thank you. Comments or questions from the committee? Senator Nielsen.
Well, as a Sanger Apache, I want to thank Gustine for at least standing up and acknowledging. There are, do you know how many schools that have similar names in California? It must be in the near 100.
There are 4 Redskin schools in the state of California.
But there are many others, though, that,
Well, there's
Numerous.
Warriors and
yeah.
everything else. So the fear is, I mean, our junior high is called Braves. So once this bill gets passed, Braves will be attacked. And then that's going to be more out of our school budget again. I mean, these are for our students. It's not, I mean, have you ever heard of anybody calling themselves a mascot that is not good?
Well, it's a title to be
Right.
revered.
Right.
It's a
but-
sign of respect and of
Right,
pride
and that's-
and acknowledgement of the Indians and of the tribal, as in the case of Apaches.
Mm-hmm.
I think they're the Cherokees, and that these are names to be revered. But let's get to the cost. I mean, I'm just envisioning a average high school campus and all the signage that is going to be required to
Well,
change.
we have done our homework. All school sites have done their homework. Chowchilla has come in at a minimum of $1 million. Our school is, I guess we didn't go all out, but we had 500 to 750,000, and that's because our gym floor has a preserved art portrait on its floor. So how do you account for removing that artwork?
Replace that entire floor.
And then if our floors are so thin, you know, our gym is probably 50, our high school's 100 years old, so our gym's got to be really old. But the wood's probably been sanded so thin that we would have to replace the wood. And so you have a lot of unknowns, and that's why there's a difference, but.
And those are
Our cheerleader uniforms are
those
over
costs
50.
in the packet that you've given us?
Well, it's not initial breakdown, but our cheerleaders are over 50,000.
Okay.
We just spent $60,000 for football.
Senator
So-
Leyva.
Thank you, ladies. I understand there's a huge cost involved in this, but I don't think you have to worry about your junior high being asked to change their name from the Braves. I don't think there's a negative connotation there. We had a very eloquent young man come and testify before committee, and if you're not familiar, Redskins is a very derogatory comment, and a Redskin was by his own account, was when someone was scalped, an Indian was scalped. So I think that's a little different than someone who's a brave or a warrior, and I understand that there's a cost. And as I said in committee, and I'll say again, we're supposed to get better as a society, and when we find that there's something that is offensive and harming people, we're supposed to move on from that. We look at the Confederate flag and what's happening with that, and it should come down, and we should change the name from Redskins to something that's a little more appropriate and doesn't offend people who are Indians. So I thank you for this very thorough packet. I appreciate it. I do understand there will be a cost involved, but what is the cost if we do nothing for the students who go to school there and for those who, I wish you could have heard the young man. He was very eloquent.
I have heard the person.
Okay, yes, and he did a very good job of laying out and making the case. So thank you for being here, but I do support the bill.
Thank you, members. We don't want to reopen the policy discussion, but if there's no further comments or questions, we're going to move this bill to suspense and have further discussions while it's on the suspense, in suspense file. So thank you for coming. Without
you.
objection, this bill will move to the suspense file.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have AB 276, witnesses in support, witnesses in opposition, finance.
DTSC estimates the need for 2 permanent positions and approximately $200,000 from the Toxic Substances Control Account to collect and process financial information from responsible parties, but we believe that these costs would be offset by additional revenue achieved from increased collections.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to a suspense file. AB 99, Senator Perea. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We don't have a position, but note that the Franchise Tax Board estimates total revenue losses to the general fund of $47 million in 2014-15 and $5.2 million in 15-16.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, we'll move this item to a suspense file. AB 1412. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We don't have a position on this bill, but we note that San Joaquin had approximately $1 million in outstanding loans to its former RDA, and under the current loan repayment formula, those loans would not be repaid until 2050. This would this would shorten the time to 10 to 15 years for repayment, but it also results in schools not receiving at least 500,000 residual payments over that 10 to 15 year period, and the loss of those residuals increases our Prop 98 funding to those schools.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to the suspense file. AB 376, Assemblymember Lopez. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
We don't have a position, but note that by requiring a county to verify and monitor vaccination records for all CalWORKs children under 6 years old, this bill could result in a reimbursable state mandate on counties, and additionally, failure to provide vaccination records for children 6 years of age and younger results in a reduction to the adult portion of CalWORKs monthly grant. Currently, to the extent that these grant costs increase, we're projecting, based on the verification of immunization records, we're projecting $1.6 million to $8.9 million general fund annually.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to the suspense file. AB 398, Assemblymember Chow. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
Costs to, we don't have a position, but the costs to Department of Public Health are absorbable, but OSHPD estimates costs associated with establishing a new computer system to collect the language assistance policies would be $272,000 in 2016-17 and $197,000 in 17-18, with ongoing costs in the future years of $124,000.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to the suspense file. Moving to item AB 860, Assemblymember Daly. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Mr. Lovell.
Move quickly enough. John Lovell on behalf of the California Police Chiefs Association in support.
Oh, thank you. That is in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
Department of Finance is neutral on this bill. As you know, we're very sensitive to the population cap imposed by the courts of 137.5% of capacity, and we strive to have a balanced prison system that preserves public safety while maintaining durable solutions to comply with that population cap. To the extent that the measure significantly increases the state's prison population and need for additional bed capacity, we're looking at $27,000 per contracted bed. However, based on admissions for existing similar crimes, we don't believe that this is going to have a large impact on the prison population. We remain neutral.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to a suspense file. Next item is AB 913, Assemblymember Santiago. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
No position on this bill, but we note that the costs for institutions and local agencies to review existing agreements and make updates are expected to be minor. While they could likely absorb any costs within existing resources, the bill may create a mandate on community college districts and cities and counties. The Community College's Chancellor's Office estimates statewide costs of about $200,000.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we will move this item to the suspense file. Next item is AB 1024, Assemblymember Beth Gaines. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
DMV notes that it may experience costs related to the implementation of this bill. However, our review indicates that these costs appear to be minor and absorbable.
Questions from members of the committee? Seeing none, without objection, we will move this item to the suspense file. Moving to file item AB 1043, Assemblymember Salas. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
Department of Finance is opposed to this bill. Designating SR 43 as an interregional route could create pressure to divert limited funding from other projects that are better aligned with the interregional program.
Comments or questions from committee? Seeing none, without objection, we'll move this item to the suspense file. Next item is AB 1153, Assemblymember Calderon. Witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
If the state board revises the LCAP template, this bill would create minor and likely absorbable general fund costs associated with board staff workload. If not, however, because the bill allows for it to be done at the local level if the state board doesn't act, it creates cost pressures that could create a state reimbursable mandate, likely in the tens of thousands of dollars, for school districts and county offices of education to post their evaluation rubrics online.
Thank you. Comments or questions from committee? Seeing and hearing none, without objection, we move this item to the suspense file. Can the sergeants please call Senator Mendoza so that we can close out on these items? Okay. Members, we have Senator Melendez come on forward.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. I apologize for being a little tardy. I would like to start by thanking the committee staff for working very closely with us, and I do accept the committee's amendments. AB 950 would give a person subject to a gun violence restraining order, GVRO for short, because I don't want to keep saying that over and over again. It would give them the option of transferring their firearms and ammunition to a federally licensed firearms dealer to hold for the duration of the order. It does maintain the integrity of the GVRO. It ensures that the rights of the individual are being protected. It is also supported by the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence, the National Rifle Association, the Firearms Policy Coalition, the California Rifle and Pistol Association, and the Law Center to Prevent Gun Violence. And here to speak on behalf of the bill, Tom Pedersen is here. Oh, look who else we have here. Well, we have a party.
Let's take a picture.
I know, right?
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Tom Pedersen on behalf of California Rifle and Pistol Association and the National Rifle Association, as Mr. Worley's on another matter. Just quickly like to say that we're in support of the bill because we think this makes a lot of sense. It allows the firearms to be taken into a secure area to be held by a firearms dealer, but it also affords the individual that is perhaps unjustly accused of something to have those firearms retained so that they can get them returned to them rather than have to sell on pennies on the dollar. So I think it's a win-win, and for that reason, we ask for your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, members, is that
I think
the lights on?
there you
When
go.
the lights on. Testing. One more time.
Hit it again.
Here we go.
Testing one, there we go. It's like my radio show. Mr. Chairman and members, Sam Paredes representing Gun Owners of California. On the fiscal aspects, we actually believe that this will be a significant cost savings. First of all, we do not expect or believe that there will be very many of these gun violence restraining orders that are issued because of the difficulty in applying them. But secondly, the fact that law-abiding citizens have the opportunity to go to a dealer instead of going to law enforcement in order to separate themselves of the firearms during the process of having this issue resolved for them. Now remember, you can't get away from the fiscal aspect without saying that the person who has a GVTRO issued against them doesn't have their day in court for 20-some days. So guilt or innocence or appropriateness won't be decided until then. We think that the fiscal aspects of this bill will actually be a savings to the state of California.
Thank you. Additional witnesses in support. Witnesses in opposition. Finance.
Department of Finance is neutral on this bill, and we were not noting a state fiscal impact to the bill prior to the amendments, with the amendments which have not been analyzed. But just sort of my quick read, it does look like there's potential for savings.
Great, thank you. Comments or questions from committee? There's a motion by Senator Leyva. Senator Melendez, would you like to close?
I would just respectfully ask for your vote.
Thank you. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass as amended to the Senate floor. Laura?
Aye.
Laura, aye. Bates? Bell? Bell, aye. Hill? Hill, aye. Leyva? Leyva, aye. Mendoza? Mendoza, aye. Nielsen? Nielsen, aye.
That's
Thank
6-0. We'll keep the roll open. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate that.
Okay, members, we're going to go through the open items just to make sure everybody adds on, beginning with Senator Dodd's item, AB 296. Secretary, please call the roll.
Bates?
6-0, that's still on call. AB 794, Linder. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion was do pass to the Senate floor. Bates? Bell? Bell, aye.
6-0, we'll keep that item open. Next item is AB 924, Senator Cooley. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is do pass to the Senate floor. Bates?
6-0, we'll keep that roll open. Next item is AB 1083. Secretary, please call the roll. That's Senator Eggman's item.
The motion is do pass to the Senate floor. Bates? Mendoza? Aye. Mendoza, aye.
6-0, that item is out. She's not coming back.
We just heard.
The next item is AB 1100 by Senator Lowe. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Bates? Mendoza? Mendoza, aye.
5-1, that item is out. Following item is AB 1262, Assemblymember Wood. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Bates? Mendoza? Mendoza, aye.
6-0, that item is out. We are going to move back to Assemblymember Dodd's item, AB 296. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Bates?
6-0, that item is out. Following item is AB 794. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Bates?
6-0, that measure is out. Next item is AB 924, Assemblymember Cooley. Secretary, call the roll.
The motion is due pass to the Senate floor. Bates?
6-0, that item is out. And we have Assemblymember Melendez's item, AB 950. Secretary, please call the roll.
The motion is due pass as amended to the Senate floor. Bates?
6-0, that item is out. Members, this concludes our Appropriations Committee hearing. Thank you so much.